Hi, good morning, everyone. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, David, go right
Sure.
ahead.
Enbar Consulting. I'm a independent consultant in energy and environment, and I've been doing this for over 20 years. So thank you.
Okay. Javon, would you go ahead and introduce yourself? Unmute Javon.
Yes. Morning, everyone. My name is Jevon Buchanan. I'm an engineer at JPS in the generation department. My specialty is renewable projects, specifically solar related projects. We also a supplier and installer of residential solar systems, a company called Sustainable Utilities Jamaica Limited.
Right, thanks, Javon. Jason.
Hi, morning, everybody. Jason Robinson, I'm the CEO of Solar Buzz Jamaica. We are an EPC. We engineer, procure, and construct solar systems, commercial and residential. The company was founded in 2011. I'm here to say that we really got going when the original DBJ solar financing started in 2014. Edison and his team have been a huge help to our company and us growing over the years. And I'm happy to be here and happy to answer questions about installations and how you can get financing, and hearing how JN is going to speed up the process and partner with DBJ. It's a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Helen, over to you.
Certainly. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Helen Whitaker, manager of the Intermediary Relationship Unit here at the Development Bank of Jamaica. Now, at the DBJ, our mission is to drive economic growth and development, and a key component of advancing small island economies like ours is ensuring that clean, renewable sources of energy are readily accessible to individuals. So we do the residential as well as businesses. Thank you.
Okay, and Ricardo, tell us a bit about
Hi,
yourself.
good morning. Hearing me?
Yes, we are.
All right, good. My name is Ricardo Williams. I am head of brand sales and relationship management here at JN Bank. I heard Jason. We are here to try and see how best we can speed up the process once persons are interested in a facility. From you find that the part DBJ and JN Bank is one that we wish to strengthen, and the solar thrust is something that we believe strongly in, and we are prepared and ready to provide the requisite financing that persons need. So I'll be speaking more on that as we go along. So I'm ready for questions.
All right, thanks for that, Ricardo. So David, we want to take a journey just to have our audience understand solar energy. We've been hearing a lot about solar energy and renewable energy, and what is this solar energy and why is it important to us here in Jamaica?
All right. So I guess the easiest way to explain it is that we look at the light that comes in during the daytime. We call it solar, and we're not quite sure what it's all about. Really, it's just small packets of energy, and technology has allowed us now to have that energy hit a surface, which we call a module, a panel. It produces electricity. We make a circuit, as in we connect two ends, and that electron just moves around that circuit. As it moves around the circuit, it's turning on your fridge, it's turning on your lights, it's turning on all kinds of things. So that's a simple way. We have all been exposed to it perhaps in the simplest way. Anybody remembers an old-time calculator that had a little black strip across the top? That's probably our earliest introduction to solar, but solar has been in space, taking care of the astronauts there. So it's been around a long time. But the great thing about solar is that it has, the technology has changed rapidly, and it is very applicable for any stage or any person who wants to use it. So you are going to camp, there's a backpack that has a strip of solar modules on it. It produces enough power to charge your phone. That's very basic, very personal. Then in your own home, if you have the modules included, your inverters, and I'm sure Jason and Javon will speak some more about this, your modules which capture that energy, your inverters which convert it into the normal AC alternating current that you use, you can run your refrigerator off it. You can run your TV. You can run your lights off it. But then it's also useful for the commercial entity that needs its power to be productive, to manufacture, to have meetings and all that kind of functionality. And so you can scale up from a simple 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt system, 5 for your home, to anything up to 100 kilowatts under the regulation and more. And then we can go even beyond that to just show how versatile solar is, to have the independent power producers, which are putting 20 megawatts on the grid. So these are large areas, acreages of these modules, powerful inverters, and a whole circuitry. So, there's nobody in Jamaica who can say, solar is not for me. I don't have any use for it. I'll add one more, that, it's not just for lighting, but now they have panels which are connected to fans which run on direct current. So you don't need to turn on your switch to get your fan going, and you don't need it for your outdoor lights. How many of us burn our outdoor lights for 8 hours, each day? But there's a panel with a light, and there's a zero bill, and all these things, again, Javon and Jason have been experts. They pay back for themselves in less than a year to under 4 years.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for that, David. Now, just take us a little further. So Jamaica has set some fairly aggressive targets.
Right.
Renewable energy from electricity, nationally determined contributions, big words like that under the climate agenda.
Right, right.
You want to just break that down for us in simple terms? What is this 50% by 2030 target?
Yes, you're quite right. Everything starts from our national energy policy. In other words, what does the government and stakeholders agree to for Jamaica being able to produce some of its own power? But the more power and energy broadly that you have from your own sources, is the more independent you are. You can determine your economy better. You can determine the development pathways. So Jamaica's energy policy is being modified, but it previously said 30%. The government has said not aggressive enough, let's make it 50. So how are we getting there? Well, we are doing IRPs, right? These are calls or invitations for proposals. And we already have large companies called independent power producers. Most of us think JPS produces all the electricity that we need. So the correct perspective is that we have independent power producers who are on the grid. There are wind, but I think our focus here is solar. We certainly have content solar, which has the capacity for 20 megawatts. And we have 8 Rivers Energy Systems Company, which has a capacity of 57 megawatts. It puts less than that on the grid, but suffice to say that is capacity. Those are getting us towards the target. But we recently had a 100 megawatt bid that was out, which will be declared soon enough by the end of the year. And that will add, it's getting us there to that 50% by 2030. And then by next year, we believe that there should be another procurement. I think it's 168 megawatts. So that will accelerate our movement towards that target. And JPS, of course, has the opportunity to replace some of its normal fossil fuel generators with more. I don't want to call a number there, but the point is that we are going in the right direction. I'm not even calling the commercial installations, which could easily be in a range of about 8 megawatts, all the commercial ones. And I'm not even counting the ones that are on your house, which could amount to maybe about 2.5 megawatts. So we're on our way.
All right, thanks for that. So let me jump across to Javon. So essentially, based on what David said, solar is really just getting some panels and the same thing that you would get by plugging into your socket, all your appliances. The difference is that you're producing your own energy from these panels rather than taking it externally. So you, Javon, tell us about what you do as it relates to, you do energy audits for businesses and for homes. What is it that you do and how do you guide persons in making these decisions? On you.
Okay, morning again, everyone. So, as the listener points out, my primary initial function was doing energy audits, both for residential, commercial, and industrial customers. So in that, what we try to do is, first of all, identify the most cost-effective measures that a client can implement in order to reduce their energy imports. It's not necessarily to reduce their overall energy amount because customers use energy to achieve a certain lifestyle or or a certain product. So what we normally try to do is first try and identify the low-hanging fruits that are more cost effective, such as replacing inefficient AC units, replacing inefficient lighting, both LEDs and inverters. Also look at refrigeration in most people homes, the condition of the refrigerator units, and if it is that the newer models that are currently on the market, what would be the impact if they were to switch to one of the inverter type units. Additionally, for residential homes, also look at the other sources of our large energy hogs, such as water heaters, whether it be tank or tankless water heaters. We didn't, and with that, I just want to point out because it's not actually something I realized that a lot of people don't actually understand is that even with a tankless water heater, regardless of if you're into using the hot water at the time, from that is switched on, it is heating the entire line, and it actually is use a lot more power than most people realize. So essentially, before we get to actually sizing a solar system, what we look at what can be efficiently retrofitted first or replaced, and then we analyze what this new baseline would be. Also take into consideration any plans that the customer might or client might have in terms of if it's a business, if they're doing expansion, if it's a home, also if they're building extension, if they're putting in new, they'd like to have air conditioning units in their bedroom, because to be frank, time hot, everybody wants to be able to can live comfortably at their home. So the process really that we try to implement both, as I say, in professionally at JPS and otherwise, is that identify the low cost measures that can be implemented first, then establish the baseline, take into consideration plans in terms of going forward over the next short term, and then we do our analysis for what the solar system needs to accomplish.
Okay. Thanks for that, Javon. So let me move across to Jason. You are an installer. You've been doing this for a long time, all across the country in homes as well as commercial enterprises, businesses. What are some of the considerations that you look at when you are providing systems?
Yeah, so when we initially speak to a client, some of the issues that we will look at is obviously roof orientation. Ideally we want as much south-facing roof as possible. We can do east-west panel layouts on your roof, but we prefer to do south. But luckily, our location in Jamaica to the equator is so close that if the roof is not sloped too heavily, we can even lay some panels north and get some good production. We've had slab roofs where we lay panels flat. You'll get less production in the winter time, but luckily where we're located, we get an abundance of sun. But ideally, we want to use that south-facing roof as much as possible. The roof material comes into play. Ideally these days, the slab roofs, very easy to install on because we can orientate the panels in any direction we want. And then when it comes to pitched roofs, we then go on to the standing seam metal roofs. Those are, again, the best for solar energy when it comes to a pitched roof, and that's because we don't have to bore the roof. People familiar, if you're not familiar with the standing seam, it's the metal roof, and it has almost like a fin coming up down the roof, and we can clamp onto it. The good thing is with good quality racking, we can clamp and get it to that category 4 hurricane wind speeds that obviously insurance companies and banks want us to do. Then we go on and we look at, okay, the electrical setup of a home. We need to make sure the house is up to code, especially or business, especially for businesses, because if you're going to do net billing, up until this point, commercial installations in Jamaica, the low-hanging fruit is grid tied for 9 to 5 businesses, because you can offset 50 to 70% of the energy usage of a business in the daytime hours if they work 8 to 5 p.m. Obviously, you have exceptions of 24-hour usage, etc., cold storage, but everyone is unique. So we look at the electrical setups. It needs to be to code. And when on the commercial entities, why that's important is that when you're doing net billing or wanting to sell back, you have to now have a net billing license, which you need the general electrical regulator, to the GER, to pass your system and give you a certificate. There's a lot more certificates, things that you have to get passed in order to have net billing on a grid tie system in Jamaica. For the residential homeowners, we still need to make sure your system is up to code. If you're doing a battery system, even though you don't need the GER to pass it, you don't want to put a system on an unsafe electrical setup for fear of fires, etc. So, once on our assessment, we will look at those things, recommend any electricals that need to be upgraded. SolarBuzz I've always built us as a financial partner, as you know, Edison. So our systems have to perform as promised, or clients would stop paying the loan. I mean, if Edison had $1 for every time I said that, US dollar, he'd be a very rich man. But it's true. The systems have to perform as promised, or clients will stop paying the loan. So as someone who has done over 30 probably DBJ loans since 2015, and other NHT loans and other financial institution loans, we have to pre-engineer properly. There's a lot of competition out there now. There's a lot of less inexpensive equipment, but those things need to be done up to code, especially when you have guys companies like JN, people like Ricardo, who are willing to put their reputation and their money on the line. The systems have to be to code to get insurance, warranties of the equipment. We encourage people to match the loan. So, all of those things that I mentioned go into an energy audit, an energy assessment, into the proposal that we then sit down, discuss with the client, that is then taken to the financial institution like Ricardo for them to analyze. And, hopefully they've had enough, systems from a SolarBuzz that they know us, and that we can get the financing done. But that's our approach to it in a nutshell.
All right, thanks for that, Jason. So I think we've looked at the broad picture in terms of how Jamaica itself can benefit from this globally accessible resource. We've looked at how from a residential or a homeowner perspective, some of the considerations you need to look at in terms of figuring out sizing and what you need, and technically how an installation is done, looking at simple things like your roof type, and a number of other considerations. I think that's a really great segue into the financing, Jason. So I'm going to ask Helen, just give us a perspective, Helen. Why is the Development Bank of Jamaica interested and involved in renewable energy? And what are some of the things that you're doing?
No problem. Thank you, Edison. So like I said before, our mission or mandate is to develop Jamaica's economy. A big part of that is ensuring that our businesses can produce, our homeowners can live, and we look at energy. Energy is a very big cost for many businesses, for many homeowners, right? So what do we have to offer? Right? We have our residential energy loan for persons who would want to, probably put in a solar system in their homes. But let me just tell you though, before, what we have done in the past, and we're not just talk, like Jason has said, we have been there from around 2014 with him. We have done more than 310 projects, renewable energy projects. That takes us into the billions when we talk about financing. These projects are not just for solar, it's a range of technologies. We do the solar systems, yes, but we also do the biodigesters and the wind turbines. Now, if you're in the market, you're shopping around, the DBJ has up to $5 million that they can lend to any one individual, right? And you get to pay that back over 10 years at a very low rate, very competitive rate, let me just say that, of 9.5%. So you're looking at per million, you are looking at about $12,900 per month. And when we talk about businesses, that takes it to another level. There are certain options that are there for your business. You have your energy audit grant, right? Where we can give you up to $200,000 to get the assessment done by your energy auditor. And I think that's where Javon would come in. We also have the loan for businesses as well. If you're an MSME, again, your funding is at 9.5% and 9.5%, and it goes up to 10 years. So you're looking at the same $12,900 per month. If you're a large entity, your interest rate is a little bit higher at 10.5, and you're looking at per million, $13.5 thousand per month. So we're here, we partner with more than 30, close to 40 active financial partners, we call them intermediaries, that we can help you to connect with the correct one. So just reach out to us. We're here for you.
Oh, thanks for that, Helen. And one of our partners in the person of Ricardo Williams from JN is here. Ricardo, why is JN involved in this solar energy trust, and what are some of the things you're doing?
Thanks for that, Edison. JN Bank, has always been, as our mantra states, we'll help you find a way. So we will always be looking at ways and means to find, a solution for our members. And we do recognize the importance of, general, development of our country. We do recognize the part that renewable energy plays in that, and as such, we worked on tailoring products and services that can meet the demands and the needs of our customers as it relates to, that whole development thrust. We have partnered with the Development Bank of Jamaica, as stated. We are an intermediary. We have products, as I said before, tailored to helping our clients. One such product we have currently looking at is the JN Bank EcoBiz, facility. And Helen basically spoke to it, but we have packaged it, Helen, as you can appreciate, based on how we would put it forward to our members. The rates are as stated by Helen. and you know, looking to see how best we can aid the process in terms of providing renewable energy solutions. I can give greater details as it relates to, you know, what it looks like when you visit a Jane Bank location. You know, visiting us does not require you to at all contact the DBJ. You basically come into us and we deal with our SMEs, I can't pronounce it, and also our residential clients. You find that for the business clients, you know, as stated, you can get up to $40 million to borrow once you meet the various requirements for said facility. You know, basically it's very straightforward. We would need your, you know, your TCC, the last 2 years financial statements, pro forma invoice, basically from Jason and team, the facility that you're taking up. Energy audit would have to be done as stated, you know, and basically just a general application for the loan. All of this would be subjected to other you know, loan review processes, but at the end of the day, the aim is to see how best we can provide the facility to our members. You're looking at up to 90% financing. So we want to ensure that, you know, from a business standpoint, you have some equity in terms of the you know, the finance, the project itself. From a residential standpoint, it's very similar. You get up to 10 years as stated by Helen. We see how best you get up to $5 million. We will look at your qualification from a credit rating standpoint. As you can appreciate, we'd have to look at that to see what your history has been like, to ensure that, you know, you're in a position to definitely take up the facility and repay accordingly. So yeah, that's basically us. We try to make it as seamless as possible. As I stated before, everything is done in-house. There's no need for you to do anything else. We'll take care of the intermediate relationship between the DBJ to get the facility. But what you need to know, ladies and gentlemen, is that under this program is basically, I will consider it, when you compare it to the standard rates now for similar unsecured loan facilities, it is much lower. So Helen is in fact on point where you'll find that it's a subsidized rate. You're looking at general unsecured rates now ranging from you know, 18 to 26%, depending on person's credit rating. So you'll find that for you to be assured of a rate no higher than a 10.5% or a 9.5% is in fact a very, very good offering. So if you're definitely looking at investing in a solar solution that will over time take care of itself based on the savings you'll be earning, you'll be already tapping into a low cost facility via the DBJ JN Bank partnership.
All right, thanks for that, Ricardo. So I think we've covered our session 1, giving a fairly broad overview of the sector. And right now, I'm just going to pick up some questions out of the Q&A. As we said earlier, we're inviting the audience that's listening to drop your questions using the Q&A, and we'll get to them at the end of each section. So we're at the end of section 1, which is the general overview. There's a question, there are a couple of questions there. I see Judith Johnston. 1, what's the latest as it relates to net metering? And 2, can new builds install solar energy that is not on the grid? So we'll probably start with that one. And just in a simple way, maybe I throw it at David, Jason, or Jevon, new builds. Because I see a lot of new builds actually where there are housing schemes with solar on the roof and solar panels as well as solar water heaters. So I think the answer to that is yes. But I'll have the panel just respond to that quickly.
And I'd be even more enthusiastic to say that's the perfect time to have it, solar. You want to design your building with resilience and with some energy independence. So you can put in all your conduits in the right places. You can reinforce areas of the roof that are going to take weight. It's a perfect time to do it. And thanks for raising the point about solar water heating, because that's also one of the values that we get from solar. And I just add one other thing. One of the gentlemen will perhaps talk about batteries, but you can also provide spaces that are dedicated for battery storage, as in storing electricity, areas which are ventilated, which are reinforced, which are accessible. So new build is a perfect time. And just remind me of the first question.
The first question really was about net metering. I
Okay.
don't believe much progress has been made there. So
No, there hasn't been any change. It's still up to 10 kilowatts for residential, still up to 100 kilowatts
net
for
billing,
commercial.
net
Net
billing,
billing.
net billing.
Yes. There is an auxiliary facility which is in the legislation, which tends to be more of a direct negotiation with the utility.
That's for large commercial, right?
Yes, that go above above 100. And then in terms of can you be off grid? Sure, there's nothing in the legislation that prevents you from putting up a facility which is completely off the grid.
All right, so let me throw Omar Brissett's question to Jason. Which of the solar panels, polycrystalline or monocrystalline, is better when making the decision to install? In a nutshell.
Yeah, in a nutshell, the industry has gone towards mono. And then now you have mono PERC, which is like a mixture of panels, but the short answer is mono.
Okay, great. Then there's another question from Judith. We're just going to wrap these up in another minute. She's speaking about storage, the issue of storage, and whether battery technology is now more advanced to allow for adequate and proper storage. And either of you can take the question. I believe the answer is yes. There's been a lot of improvement in battery technology, and several builds actually include hybrid systems with both battery and solar panels. So I don't know if any one of the energy experts wants to just touch on that quickly. We'll get a bit more into that when we look at the cost and the installation of systems, and whether grid tie or off grid or a hybrid system is best suited for somebody.
Yes, the lithium batteries have improved tremendously. Right now, the industry has really started using lithium iron phosphate, which is the safest type of lithium battery. And that is what is predominantly used in the market. The storage can be as adequate as your budget, or as much as Ricardo is willing to lend you. That all comes down to the initial energy assessment to decide what size system you need. And you don't have to start off with 100% offset either. We have a lot of clients who, they're like, okay, we want to start with a partial system, which we can only offset 80 or 70% of our JPS bill. But those clients end up sometimes saving 90 to 95% because they learn how to maximize the use of the system. What I mean by that is, on cloudy days, you don't use your heavy ironing, heavy washing, etc. If it can be postponed to a sunnier day, that's great, because then you're saving your battery storage for nighttime. So there are things that you can do to really, our clients that use the online monitoring the most, which shows you how much solar your system is producing, how much battery storage you have, and how much, if any, JPS is being used. Once you use that and start to learn how your house operates, because you're now seeing it in real time, you can learn to maximize the savings from your solar. And that's something that we go through with you and teach you. And you can start with a partial, save more than you thought, and then add a battery in the future when you want, because the system is modular.
Okay, great. So I think at this point we will run into section 2, which is where we're going a lot deeper into the decision making behind whether a homeowner or a business operator adopts solar energy at their location. So David, I know some years ago you did a study on the penetration of solar across Jamaica. This 50% target that we have, what does it look like? Does it mean that every household, every business with a rooftop can or should install solar panels?
All right, so getting to 50 by 2030 is likely to happen because of the larger the IPPs, right? They will likely take us there, but it is possible that some of the commercial entities could also ramp up the speed and the rate of us getting there. So as I mentioned, there are probably about 8 megawatts or so of commercial systems, and they run anywhere from 100 to 500 kilowatts. There are variations in between. Palladium, for example, is 1.6, right? Although they're keeping most of their power. But that's how we're gonna get there. But the residentials will just be a trickle in that total volume. IPPs and then commercials is the way forward.
Okay, but there's still a ton of capacity that will come.
Yeah, we're at 18 now. We're about 18 now on the grid, right? And so we have a ways to go. When 100 comes on, and then when the next 168, then we'll see those numbers change. It also means that the utility itself has to make some adjustments, because with solar, if the systems are concentrated in a similar area and you get occasional cloud covers, you can see the graphs of the dip in the power, right? One of the things JPS has done is they have added a 24.5 megawatt hybrid system, and that has taken some of that variability. They have added gas turbines, which ramp up faster, but my understanding is that they are looking at other storage technologies, before their license is up. And also it is possible that the next round of bids for renewables will also include storage. And storage is important because what it does is it smooths out that variability when renewables, have its oscillations.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. So moving into the numbers now, let's get into how do we guide homeowners. Let's start with homeowners first. And I'm going to throw this to Javon and Jason, because you're in the field every day, going to homes, helping them look at their lighting, looking at their needs, their electricity bills, seeing how much kilowatt hours they're using per month, and guiding them as to the sizing of a system. Give us some guidance, Javon, firstly, on how do you guide somebody? Let's say I'm using 500 kilowatts at home, or my business is using, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 kilowatt hours. How do you guide in making the decision whether or not to go solar? Unmute, Javon.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yes, everyone. So in terms of moving from, let's say I have a high bill to actually coming up with a system configuration, generally what you want to get is actual load data for the facility, for the home, and then you can then determine what the daytime load looks like versus what the nighttime load looks like, because in terms of the solar system, the basic components of the average residential solar system is the panels, the hybrid or multi-mode inverter, and the battery. You will find some I don't say legacy installations before the industry shift to hybrid inverters that have two separate inverters, one to extract battery power from the battery and one to just convert the DC power from the panels, but those that is more or less becoming very rare. Even the European manufacturers like Fronius are also moving towards getting a hybrid or multi-mode inverter. So in that sense, what you want to be able to determine is how many panels you need, and in that sense, what the DC capacity needs to be, because that's what ultimately determines how much energy you're able to generate. And then you also want to be able to determine what is your night load, and in terms of how much energy you're going to be using between let's say six, when the sun is gone, between 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And then that is what going to determine the size of the battery capacity what you're going to need.
Mhm.
Now, you can do a rough estimate from your utility bill, and based on the type of appliances that a person says they have. Um,
So give us a
so
ballpark, Jevon,
okay,
based on some of the audits that you've done, what kind of
okay.
size have you been recommending, for instance, for a household, whether it's a 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, with a family that is, just in a
Okay. All
ballpark.
right. So let's say generally, like in terms of what we do want to be able to organize our own basic packages based on what's the most common size we'd say fits the profile the general profile. So for example, you have a 2 bedroom home, you're paying um 30,000 per month, or let's say then. So a quick conversion to move from the utility bill to the actual energy usage would be divided by 6. Call it, let's say divide by 60. It varies each month, but the yes, I said yes, the average JPS rate is around $60 per kilowatt hours. So a customer who with a light bill of 30,000 is using roughly about 500 kilowatt hours per month. Now moving from the 500 kilowatt hours, what you want it per month, what you want to then determine then is how much energy is then needed to be produced each day. So for 500 kilowatt hours, we move down to divide by 30. Um, let's say you get roughly
Just on
like
average, Jevon.
about 6, yeah.
Right.
Yes, this is called, say you get around uh 16 to 17 kilowatt hours per day needed.
Right.
Now, we're a small country, but you do have some variations in terms of the amount of sunlight that different locations receive.
Right.
But then again, generally we can say then it varies between maybe maybe 4.5 peaks on hours, and
Mhm.
so from the sun, from sunrise to sunset you get power. But in terms of the what we call peaks on hours, or let's say that if you were to add up everything and say that what is the when the maximum output of radiation that you're getting, that would be the solar system can harvest energy from. Let's
Mhm.
say that you'd use generally through the island is around 4.5 to 5.5
Okay.
peaks on hours. So what that means then is that on average we have about 5. So quickly jumping now from the 16 kilowatt hours that is needed per day, you then divide it by 5 and you end up with a 3 kilowatt
Yeah.
or 3.2 kilowatt in terms of the DC capacity, or the panel capacity.
Mhm.
Now, for your general residential home, we can assume, yes, the refrigerator, unless it's going to be running 24 hours, let's then say, you have air conditioning that is being used throughout the night, or fans. So let's just say then that of that 16 kilowatt hours, let's that say 60% is nighttime consumption.
Right.
So it's a rough calculation, and that means that we're at around 10 kilowatt hours of nighttime consumption. Now, one of the advantages of the lithium ion or the lithium iron phosphate batteries as opposed to some of the lead acid based chemistries is that you're able to deplete or use more of the battery capacity. So before we generally not want to go beyond discharge the batteries past 50, say around 50%. Now with these
So going back a
lithium
little
based
bit, Javon, just going
Okay.
back a little bit to what you said earlier, for that size household, typically they could be looking at a PV system of what size, whether it includes batteries or not. How do you make that decision? Is it if they want to supplement? I know you can start at anywhere from 0 up, and it will always contribute to your savings. But
Yes.
typically, what are people taking or
Okay.
trying to put in place for that kind of
Okay,
a
so
household? Just ballpark.
okay, so
And
most
then
people I know
Jason
want
will come in terms of some of the systems.
okay. Okay. So generally, as I said, with most the clients that I've dealt with, they're on the lower end, so they're either be around 500 at more kilowatt hours per month, and generally people want to offset as much as possible from their utility bill without it well, one, they definitely it can take longer the payback can be longer than the loan period, but they generally want a payback of around say 4 to 6 years. Some people maybe want up to 8 years. So
Okay.
in that sense, then they would actually to tell you that design a system that makes me I don't need JPS at all on a given month. So full offset in terms of energy consumption.
Okay.
And
So in terms of some of the options then, essentially, depending on the size of your household and the size of your monthly consumption, your daytime, nighttime usage, then that will determine the size of your system. And depending on what your objective is, whether you want to supplement your consumption from the utility company, or you want to go, some persons go almost off grid, some persons use a lot of batteries. That's one of the questions in the chat speaking about whether it's practical to invest in more batteries rather than solar panels. I think that's part of the mix that you're speaking to. I'm going to ask Jason to come in here at this point though, and just give us a perspective, Jason, on what you're seeing in terms of the sizing of systems for residential and the considerations as it relates to balancing the amount of power that's investment in solar panels and batteries.
Right. So yeah, definitely. So yeah, as Javon was saying, each client is extremely different. You have to really go through the auditing process with them. What we've seen at SolarBuzz, typically, our typical client usually comes in and around like a $50,000 Jamaican JPS bill, for instance. At that level, you're looking at about a $4 million solar system, which is roughly going to take you into that 6 to 6.5 year payback. Payback for some people is the only thing they care about. But other people, resiliency is a big part of it. They need battery power. When they lose power, they lose water. So consistent power. It's not just about the payback with everybody. But we're looking at that on that $50,000 JPS bill. You're looking at like a $4 million system, 6.5 year payback. Now, the good thing is they have announced, and I know you'll get to this most likely, Edison, the tax credit that will come for when you install solar and the residential tax credit, it's a 30% on the system up to $4 million. So then you're reducing that 4 million down by 1.2 to 2.8. And now that payback, instead of 6.5 years, you're now looking into that to more that 4.5 years of type payback, which is very reasonable. So depending on, again, once you do the audit, as Javon has explained, and we go through and analyze each person's bill, we can essentially determine the size of the system, give you your payback. now implement this tax rate that reduces the payback. As Helen was saying, now the loan now, let's say on a $4 million system was 12,000. I think she said per million. You're looking at 48,000, and your JPS bill was 50,000. So now you're a little cash flow positive from day one, which is what we want, obviously, to do with JN, with the loan. So those are the type of things that we kind of work out with the clients, with the banks, et cetera, to show, with the loan, with the system cost, how does that play into what you're being offered on your financing?
Okay, great. Thanks for that. And I think, again, you create this really good segue into the financing question. And Helen, I know you've done, or you've facilitated through your various partners, microfinance institutions, commercial banks, credit unions. And in saying that, I'm actually answering one of the questions in the chat, as in, how is it that people access DBJ's energy loans? You've done residential as well as house, as well as business loans. So what are some of the considerations that you had to take into account as it relates to residential?
All right, so for our residential clients, as Ricardo would have mentioned, we're looking at, are you able to pay this debt? That's what they're looking at. When you talk about just $12,940 per month as a payback per million, and Jason has said something, I think I wanted him to clarify it a bit. He said something about a $4 million unit, but because of a tax credit, it's like 2.8. So what would the banker be financing, Jason, the 4 or the 2.8?
The banker would finance the 4, but the client can then now, when filing their income tax, apply for the tax rebate.
Okay.
Yeah,
if I understand correctly. Ricardo or Edison may correct me if I'm wrong.
And that ties into, again, one of the questions in the chat. So I guess we can just go here quickly. In terms of the tax credit that the Minister of Finance announced recently, where on systems costing up to $4 million, persons can get a tax credit of up to 33.33%. And that tax credit can be applied against your income tax as an individual. So if you're a PAYE, then you're able to claim that. You're able to claim up to a percentage each year, and you're able to carry forward the difference. So in looking at the return on a solar installation, the homeowner would be able to take that into account and say, okay, I'm able to get back, let's say it's $250,000 when I file my taxes for this year and for next year, until I've exhausted that, whether it's $1 million in credit over 4 years. So it's taken in pieces over the period until the 32 1/3 of the cost of the system is recovered.
Okay. All right. So from our standpoint, what someone getting a unit for their home costing $4 million, it would come out for them around $51,700. If you go for something like a 2.5 million, of course, it's considerably less. And of course, they mentioned before that you could start small. So at 2.5, you're coming out at 32,350, right? And that's for the residential. I don't know if you want me to speak about the business as yet, because Ricardo mentioned unsecured loans, which we do have a solution for that as well.
Right. The third segment is where I think we want to
right.
take
Highlight
on this side of things. I just wanted us to close up Ricardo with the residential financing. And I'll throw this out there. There's a question in the chat regarding how do the financiers on the program, DBJ, JN, and I'm sure the installers as well, collaborate with, let's say, the NHT offering We know NHT is offering 1.5 million as their smart energy program. And they also have the home equity loan, so to speak, where after 10 years you can access funding to help build out the system. And I know Helen DBJ has been looking at how to be the top up to some extent on some of these loans. So we're always collaborating. Just answering that question in the panel. Ricardo, you as JN, you provide all of these facilities. I'm taking you to another question in the panel in the chat, which is, how have you seen the demand for I guess solar loans over time, and what is being done to encourage some of your customers to get on board?
All right, thanks for that question. If I'm to be honest, the queries as it relates to accessing facilities to do solar purchases has been primarily via the unsecured loan, our general unsecured loan product. So we'll get invoices generally really unsecured loan facility that we offer. So you'll find that as it relates to specifically via the DBJ, the queries don't necessarily come via that medium. We will put it forward, but as it relates to writing loans specific to the JN Bank DBJ partnership, the take-up has not been as high as we would have expected. We are actually in the process of refining the product itself, our product offering itself, to see how we can probably make it more attractive and market it in such a way that the take-up will be greater. So that is an activity taking place currently. But as it relates to just general take-up, it has not been as high as we would have wanted. As I said, queries and persons will move to provide us with invoices under our general unsecured loan program, which goes up to $5 million that you can borrow. And that's primarily for residential as well, I must state. So it's not business take-up, it's primarily residential. But as it relates to DBJ Jane Bank partnership, we're looking to see how we can fine-tune that to make it that much more attractive, because it is in fact attractive given the subsidy rate that is being on it. You made mention of partnership with NHT. We do also partner with NHT as it relates to that 1.5 smart loan offering that they do have as well. So we are working with them on that as well, given that we're a financier.
All right, thanks for that, Ricardo. Before we move into the business solar system market and the opportunities for business owners, I just want to clear a few more of the queries that are in the Q&A, and we invite persons to keep putting your questions in the Q&A so we can include them in the discussion as we go along. How long, Ricardo, does it take to assess a loan when it comes before you? Let's say you can speak about both residential and business. I'm assuming for residential, you're looking more at salary and that kind of thing. For business, it's probably a more involved process.
It's definitely a more involved process, Edison, for the business. For the residential, it really basically falls under our typical assessment process, which normally you're looking at I would say maybe 2-3 days. And why that is because we have to do the liaison between the DBJ in terms of sending over certain documentation and getting that returned to us. From a business standpoint, as you are rightly stated, it's far more intense. We would have to do some assessment of the business. We would have to assess the performance over the 2 years audited reports, just a general assessment. So you'll find that that will take a bit longer. I would say ballpark, you're looking at maybe a week and a week to get it fully assessed, submitted, documents shared and returned, so the complete process. And this is just estimated here. We're looking at maybe tops 2 weeks in terms of once everything is provided up front by the prospect.
All right, thanks for that. So I see another question from Judith about and I'm interpreting it this way: how applicable is solar power systems for agriculture and for farmers looking at drying technology and that kind of thing? I know that certainly Helen, from a DBJ standpoint, a big part of the portfolio was in the agricultural sector, mainly poultry. But just you want to touch that briefly before, I don't know, David might want to comment on the applicability of solar technology to various industries like agriculture, for instance.
Right, so for the DBJ, we have our projects that 310, those 310 projects spanned right across agriculture, agro-processing. Yes, drying technology was included for some. We looked at also even cosmetologists that wanted to solar their small businesses. They came on board as well. So we're here. We have the funding. Again, once it's business, you're in the MSME sector, it's just $13,500 per month per million. And as a business, I don't know when you'll be willing for me to speak about my fabulous solution for those that do not have collateral outside, to help them get into the solar system, get their solar systems. But yes, it's very applicable, and we do support with the poultry, agro-processing, you name it, we've done it.
All right, so maybe Helen, at this point, I'll allow you to segue into the business section.
Finally.
And to tell us what solutions are there that allow business customers. We know we have a whole range of business customers out there who have accessed and used solar. David and Jevon would be familiar with a lot of those, having done audits and Jason installations. And it ranges from, as you said, hairdressers, barber shops, offices, retail outlets, factories, small hotels, Airbnb.
Yes.
There's a
Airbnb, small hotels, yes.
What is available to support them as far as financing for businesses and collateral support?
All right, so let's start at the top. Let's go back to assessing whether or not you need a system or do you need to just operate more efficiently. That's where the energy audit grant comes in. We offer up to $200,000 to get that audit done. Then we move into our low-cost financing. Again, for a small business, we cover up to 90% of your project, which means that you come in, your system is going to cost you $5 million, we can lend you up to $4.5 million. Again, the charge for that at 9.5 per million is just $12,940 per month. So that takes care of the loan for the small business. We have the loan for the large business as well. But let me just continue to our CEF product, which, we need to talk about. We do know that there's some apprehension in using the solar technology equipment to guarantee the loans in some spaces. So of course, there is a CEF, the Credit Enhancement Facility, that gives you up to 30 million in coverage, literal coverage, so that you do not have to go, probably get a guarantor or something to assist you. No, and it's definitely for MSMEs. So if you're a startup, you're in business for probably 12 months to 24 months, or, just starting up, just getting the cash flows going, we have our smallest guarantee, which goes up to 5 million. Let's say you're in business past the startup stage, and you need to access a loan of up to 11 million, we can give you a 90% guarantee. So it's their loan is 11 million, we are covering $10 million. Right? For the larger loan types, going further, we again cover up to 80% of up to $30 million. And of course, this comes at a cost. This is guaranteeing your loan. It's a risk we're taking. But guess what? It's such a minimal cost. It is 2% per annum. So if they're thinking, how do I get started? Reach out. Again, we have several partners. Ricardo is online. I'm sure we'll get Ricardo's contact at some point. And the DBJ is always open and ready. Give us a call.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Helen. Jumping now, taking us a little deeper now into the business segment, where for the last, I believe, 15 minutes or so, before we close out at 12:30, we just want to highlight the opportunities for businesses in adopting renewable energy. We spoke about the audits, Javon, and how a business can, assess how much energy they're currently using, how they are using energy, and how best to reduce their load first before they invest in whether it's solar panels or solar plus batteries. You've done several audits. What are some of the main takeaways that you'd want to share with our audience at this point in how to make the decision to say whether on Monday morning or Friday of this week they should contact an auditor to connect? I've dropped the link for audits in the chat so persons can look at that and see how to get an audit done. But just give us some of the main takeaways, Javon, for businesses adopting solar energy.
Okay, all right, then. So for businesses, I was want to first point out there are there are several different commercial rate classes. So for business, the first thing they need to understand is which commercial class there is, because, for example, some of the larger rate classes, they include a demand charge, or basically as what is almost like the spike. So in terms of our solar system, for solar systems, those larger customers, what part of the issue that some of the complaints that JPS have received, and I think even DBJ in the past, I just want to ensure everybody is on this page, is that for larger customers who have paid demand charge, so the solar system produces energy, but for instance, you will have intermittency, maybe for a few minutes or so, and then you have a drop in your demand. And because of you have a drop in your production, and because of that, you still have your equipment running, and you still have a high peak demand. So the demand charge that you receive at the month, even if you have offset 95% of the energy through the use of solar energy, you will still get that demand charge. So that's one of the key things I also want to point out for business customers, is first to understand what rate class they're on and how they are built. Now in terms of findings from other findings in terms of actual equipment from energy audits, as I said, generally across different industries, you're going to have multiple different type of equipment in terms of motor driven, the big compressors, pumps, some specialized equipment, and generally for some of the more specialized equipment, the newest ones are generally the most efficient. So in some instances, for like new buildings that businesses have constructed, once they put in more or less the newest equipment that is correctly spec for this 50 hertz Jamaican grid, there's not often a lot of opportunity left other than just some small operational changes. So once you so what I tell customers is that once they have done they've done an audit, and the findings of the audit is that you already have the most efficient equipment, most efficient way of operating. Then the only further option then in terms of being able to reduce your monthly bill is to implement a solar system or another form of on-site generation.
Okay, thanks for that. Jason, I want to bring you back in here to just walk us through the installation, let's say for a business. How do you go about? So somebody comes to you and they say, hey, I want to put solar on my building, my office, my factory, whatever it is, my hotel. How do you go about doing this? And I just want it to be practical in a way that the persons on our audience can actually see themselves going to a supplier. We know that you are one of many suppliers, but just guide us through the process of actually getting solar for our business.
Right. So, businesses contact us all the time. We have a lot of business installations. Essentially, we get some initial information over the phone, maybe get their JPS bill. We'll look at it, as Javon mentioned, we want to see what rate they're using. For us, and just a note for some business owners in the crowd, the low-hanging fruit is rate 20, and your office hours are like 8 to 5 p.m. That means there's no day charge, you know how much night usage, and that you will offset the most of your kilowatt hours with a rate 20 bill using solar energy. That's the low-hanging fruit. That is where we have done factories where 8 to 4:30 is our operating hours, and it's a rate 20, and the solar offset 75% of their bill, because they close at 4:30. They had no high night cost. So when we analyze the rates, then we obviously do the site assessment, the energy assessment, the energy audits. We go through that with the client, as Javon has said, and we make a presentation. But I will tell you that mostly what business owners want to hear about is payback and how it affects the bottom line. And essentially, when you're rate 20 and you don't have much night load, you're looking at anywhere from a 3 to 4 year cash payback. But when you finance that, as you guys know, Ricardo and the DBJ team, that loan is cash flow positive from day one, meaning the loan payment is less. The loan payment plus your remaining JPS bill is less than what you are paying JPS in the past. So your loan payment plus your remaining JPS is less than what your previous JPS bill was, and that's the key. And that's what we try and get to. There's a lot of technical aspects of it, what equipment, what inverters, etc. But what we try and do by partnering with the banks and insurance companies and businesses, etc., like ATL and these guys, is prove that we can engineer a solution and be trusted to install systems that perform as promised. So the clients pay the loan, the bank is protected, the system can get insured, and then the loan payment can come in and be cash flow positive from day one. That's really what my interactions with business owners are. My technical team and my engineers, yes, they go more into the nitty-gritty of what equipment and the energy audits, etc. But when we gather that information, it boils down to cash payback, cash flow positive of the loan. And I will say that if you're rate 40 with demand charges, as was mentioned, the solar is not going to affect the demand charges initially. Over time, it will, but you're more looking at a cash pay a payback of that 4 to 6 years. But you're still cash flow positive from day one with the loan, and that is really what is what counts here. Is that you want a cash flow positive loan, which is exactly what the DBJ is offering along through their partners like a JN. And then the key is to use reputable companies that are going to install, service, maintain these systems to ensure the investment is paid off and everyone is happy. That's the key, really, what I kind of focus on when I'm talking to business owners.
Thanks for that, Jason. David, we started looking at the global picture. The targets that Jamaica has. We've gone into the residential market, looked at the opportunities for residences, looked at how you determine how you size your needs and determine whether you're grid tied, hybrid, off grid. We looked at the installation from where the installers provide that kind of support. We also went into the question of the benefits, the cost of a typical system, how it can be funded. The financiers looked at, you know, what $1 million looks like in payback. We looked at the savings that you can get from installing a system. One of the questions in the chat that I'm going to put all of us on the spot kind of is, why has the take-up for solar energy in Jamaica been so not as, you know, high as, you know, countries like Germany? We have a lot of sunshine in Jamaica every day. In a nutshell, Jason, I know you have a lot. We're wrapping up in 8 minutes, but go ahead. You can take the first dibs on that one.
I'll make it very, very quick. In these other,
Before David, 'cause I
Yes.
really wanted David to put in
I
context.
know, I'll just say that what it comes down to is the banking policies and their approach to the solar energy. DBJ has done a great job of putting the money out there, and even Ricardo has said the take-up has been slow. I can't understand why, but I think that even on the residential aspect, you know, once you have the right partner, the banks should be using the system as collateral for homeowners, even on the small systems. The systems have value and they will produce. And then the CEF facility allows the commercial clients to use the system as collateral. It's a no-brainer. I just think the banks haven't approached it or tackled it aggressively enough, and that's it.
So David, Jason kind of created a segue that I'm going to jump on it.
Yeah.
You said the systems we should be able to use the systems as collateral. We know that lenders, I mean, if it's a residence, they're going to look at your salary. If it's a business, they're going to probably ask for some tangible collateral or use DBJ's CEF guarantee. The systems have a life, David, of what, 15, 20 years before they get to 90 or 80% capacity, or what? Guide us through that, and you know, how reliable is that? As it's not going away.
You want me to take that?
You can take that as well as the general
So,
question that I gave you before.
Let me segue from what Jason said. I agree with him on the banking. NHD, for example, missed the opportunities because the person who wants to put a system on their roof may not just be the one who is just buying, but maybe the person who has now paid off for their home and they have liquid cash, right? Now, recently, I know they have restructured. So I have to put NHD in with the financiers, right? But another thing that has been a problem in moving forward on renewables is this popular terminology, fake news and alternative facts. There are some fake news that says that your solar system is going to blow off as soon as you get the first rain, you know, the first storm. Fake news, alternative reality. They are as rugged as your air conditioning system. If you're nervous about your air conditioning system, I can understand, okay? When I did a quick check of solar systems throughout the island after burial, I have not heard of any situation where panels have been found in other people's yards and all that kind of thing. And any damage has been roof damage. If your roof goes, you have a bigger problem than your solar panel. Fake news, alternative reality. Some persons say that, you know, solar is ugly. Fake news, right? You have no parking systems, which, you know, allow you to integrate design into your commercial space. We have missed opportunities, or I would say a lot. I'm gonna get myself in trouble with private sector. Private sector has to be resourceful, strategic, and visionary. We are in a context of climate challenges. And one of the most resilient climate options is solar. Why? Because solar allows you to use design to reduce heating. There's a design up at Maypen Hospital. They had an open space, 52 degrees in the sun. they put up a pergola which covered that area, so it and it brought the temperature down to 28. That's a waiting area now at 52 degrees. No, 28. So they have power and they have cooling, right? If you were in Burial and you were in St. Elizabeth and you lost power from JPS and you couldn't reconnect, if you spoke with Jason or Javon or anybody else and they helped you to set up a hybrid system which could create a pseudo grid, you disconnect from the JPS until JPS comes to you and you run on your system the basic components that you needed. That's business continuity and business resilience. And if you're moving forward in transport, you plug in your electric vehicle, not in JPS's fossil fuel option, you plug it into your renewable energy solar car port. So really, fake news and alternative reality has slowed down how people have perceived renewables. I believe DBJ is well positioned and has done a good job of bringing us into the truth.
All right, thanks for that, David. So in these last 3 minutes, I'm going to give each of the panelists the opportunity to just express yourself to the audience that's out there. I believe we've answered most of the questions, and some of them are, of the remaining questions are related. The panelists' information will be made available, so you're able to contact them and reach out and get more. The recording of the webinar will also be made available to those who are registered, and we'll probably have it on DBJ's YouTube channel as well. So I'll move on from David to Javon, going through that same order. Just in a minute, Javon, what do you want to say to your closing words to the audience in our initial Solar 101 session as an energy auditor? Get an audit done.
Okay, well, I would want to advocate to our prospective clients, everybody that's interested in possibly getting a solar system, that this is proven technology. The financials on solar systems of almost most people's application in terms of general businesses are their homes. We're talking payback periods as low as 3+ years. There are multiple financing options, whether through DBJ or NHT, and through for example, the Jamaica Renewable Energy Association. They can give you a list of possible suppliers to choose from, and that's the approach that I'd hope that most people detect, so that we can be sure that they get a safe and reliable and a performing solar system.
Thanks for that, Javon. Jason?
I'd just like to thank you for having me on the panel. I'd like to end by saying that, we've had, Jamaicans are very educated on high energy costs. We've been through it. But, more importantly now these days, we know that solar can bring down our energy costs. What we need to now start focusing on is resiliency. You need to have backup power to be productive, as David said, in case of the grid failure. So, these systems need to be included in mortgages. The banks need to get creative. I'm really hoping that Ricardo can set the way forward, because none of the other banks really have gone to the extent that I think could really allow this great technology that's blowing up everywhere in the world. And the demand is great in Jamaica, but the red tape bogs us down in a lot of ways. We need to get around that. It's very easy to finance a car. I understand that, yes, it's easy to repossess a car as well, but that it comes back to partnering with the right teams to make sure that you don't have to have repossessions and things can get done. So I really hope that going forward, resiliency can be at the forefront of everyone's mind, so we can stay productive during these superstorms that are heading our way, while you're also reducing your energy costs, and that the banks get creative and really take the DBJ team seriously. They've been doing a great job since 2014. Trust me, I've been a partner with them. So thank you.
Thanks for that. Ricardo?
I would want to say that, I take Jason's point. We really need to see, and I stated it earlier, that I have a document here right in front of me now, where we're definitely looking at the overall DBGA financing options that are available to see how we can package them in such a way that our clients and potential clients can really take up on these offers. The truth is, solar technology is a proven cost-saving medium, so we really need to see how we can figure out a way to finance it in such a way that persons can really reap the benefits of the facility, and then we can see greater levels of take-up in the country in general. So I can commit from a Jane Bank standpoint to the refocus on this product to see how best we can get a greater level of take-up, Jason, to ensure that, persons really understand the value that can be derived from it. All right?
Okay, great. Helen, let me give you the last word from the panel.
Sure, you saved the best for last.
All
All right, so just for the audience, do not procrastinate. Clearly, this is a good move. It makes sense. There is low-cost funding. We have an audit grant for business people. We have you when it comes to helping you with collateral, and the rates are excellent. So move now, go to our website. It's dbankjm.com. You can go there, send us your information so we can make contact with you. You can also WhatsApp us at 876-371-3830. So please reach out so we can get you started. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that. And in closing, I really want to thank our panelists who have joined us today, from David, our energy consultant, Jevon, the energy auditor, Jason, the installer and supplier, Ricardo, the financier, Helen, the ecosystem developer, providing all the various areas of support. And to thank our audience. You've been a really, really excellent audience staying with us for this hour and a half. What we've tried to do is to give you key information that can help you in your decision making on how, as a homeowner or as a business owner, to implement renewable energy. We've looked at the big picture. We've looked at what are the considerations that an auditor looks at. We've looked at the installation requirements, whether it's your roof, how your business operates. We've looked at the funding requirements and the payback and the savings, and trying to get those to match. Yes, there's a lot of work to be done, and as Helen said, DBJ is committed to working with the industry to driving the take-up of renewable energy in Jamaica. We have some climate goals to achieve. We have businesses and to keep open, and residences to keep cool. We know the days are getting hotter, and the load is going to increase for air conditioning and cooling water and all of that. So this is a critical thing that we're doing. I believe we've answered 99% of the questions in the chat, and the others would have come out in the discussion. So in closing, I just want to thank you again for joining us today and for making this a really, really excellent first in a series on Solar 101. We intend to do this again at some point and to take you a step further. So thank you all and have a wonderful rest of the day.